Good evening, everyone. I think we'll start our meeting now. So, Mr. Looney, do we have a quorum present?
Yes, sir, we do.
And let the record show that Councilmember Ann Snavy is out, and we wish her a speedy recovery. We have Ben Mock with us. Reverend Mock, would you lead us with an invocation, please?
Yes, sir. I'd also like to mention that this Thursday is the National Day of Prayer. And as our tradition is here locally, we will be gathering in front of our Pickens County Courthouse at noon and invite any and all citizens to come and join us in prayer for our country and our community. Let's pray. Father, we come to you thanking you, Lord, that you allow us to approach you in the name of the one that you've made to be our high priest of good things to come. We acknowledge, Lord, we live in perilous times. And some would call evil good and good evil. Many want security without sacrifice and prosperity without perseverance. But Lord, I pray that you would forgive us our transgressions and offenses. And Lord, on this council, I ask your blessing and direction. Help them not be wise in their own eyes or prudent in their own sight, but guide them to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with you. Bless our community and all that make it up. Bless every home and family. Lord, let what's done here tonight be honoring of this community. And Lord, I just ask that you would guide these dear these ladies and gentlemen in the execution of their duties, and let it all be for the good of this community. We ask it in Christ's name with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Councilman John Krause, would you please
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, you have in front of you our agenda. I entertain a motion at this time to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Any discussion by council? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Council, our consent agenda is also here in front of you, and I would entertain a motion at this time that we adopt the consent agenda as approved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you, sir. In discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The motion carries. It is our pleasure this evening to ask Chief Dawkins to come forward, and he'll be presenting a letter of commendation for two of our city policemen.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight, most of the time, I guess y'all know the citizens, the public sees the negative side of law enforcement. I'd like to take a little time and recognize two officers who deserve a little commendation. So I'd like to read this to y'all. First off, I'd like to call up Officer Joseph Long and Officer Frank Robbins. Don't get embarrassed. On November 30th, 2022, Patrol Officer Joseph Long and Frank Robbins responded to a single vehicle crash on Cove Road in the early morning hours. Upon arrival, they found the vehicle at rest on its top in a ditch with running water due to the amount of rainfall that morning. An 84-year-old driver was still entrapped inside the vehicle. Officer Long and Officer Robbins, as well as Deputy Sheriff Tyler McIntyre, who is not available today, assisted in removing the elderly driver from the vehicle to ensure his safety from the running water entering the turned over vehicle, and to gain proper assessment of his possible injuries. These officers exhibited quick decision-making skills, teamwork to protect the citizen, provide the services, and a true public safety professional should in such a situation. At this time, I would like to not only recognize Jasper Patrol Officer Joseph Long and Patrol Officer Frank Robbins for their job well done, but also provide them with a token of commendation for their exemplary work and dedication to the city of Jasper. Actions such as these should not go unnoticed, and it proves true to what a Jasper Police Department professional is. So we thank you very much, and present you with these letters.
Thank you, sir.
There's that. Two of them, that's hard. You got your little medal to go on, and wear on your class A's.
Thank you, sir. Good job. Thank you, sir. I won't be holding this, but you do your phone.
Thank you very much.
We're going to come down as a council and we'll have a executive session.
Hold your just get up there, don't mind.
You're one of us.
Oh. Good job.
Let's sit. Take the pictures that way.
And my guts,
Be tall. Okay, all of y'all are good. Smile real big. 1, 2, 3. Perfect for me.
Young people, you want?
Thank you, Chief. Oh, you go get some with your congratulations, your congratulations. Congratulations. I'll still say congratulations to you too, because you did it too.
Getting there.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Our next item under new business, presenting consideration of approval of audit presentation from the Rushton Company. And I think we'll let Mr. Sam Ladd will bring this to us.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here this evening on this nice, cool May evening. As you know, we do a lot with the audit. We come and interview your staff and ask a lot of your finance department. And we're here a month early this year, and so I'm excited we're usually here in June, so glad to be here. I'm going to go through the highlights of the big blue book you have in front of you. You've got a letter there in front of you as well, and I'll address that at the end here. Feel free to stop me as I go along through the highlights here. If I can get my clicker work. Starting on page 1 through 3, our letter seems to get longer and longer the more auditing standards come out. We are happy to inform you that you have an unmodified opinion. We didn't have to modify our opinion. So the financial position of the city of Jasper, we believe, is fairly stated at December 31, 2022. Of course, the financial statements are the city management's responsibility. We, as the auditor, are required to look at those financials and test those, and we have done that. We believe we have the evidence to issue our opinion, and we believe they are fairly stated. Of course, we do that under governmental auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. So good news to have an unmodified opinion. Now, to the financial statements here. The government-wide financial statements we'll talk about first, and of course that's a full accrual basis of accounting, which we're not usually we're talking about the funds, which are a modified accrual. And so there's two statements there. You have the statement of net position, which presents the assets, liability, and minus the liabilities, and gives you that residual net position. And so a shot in time will give you, on December 31, 2022, the net position of the city. The statement of activities is a full accrual income statement, so it aggregates the business type and the governmental activities into one income statement. And I'll give you the summary of those statements here. You can see on the third line there, 2022, you have a total net position. If you look at the fourth column over, you've got $30,300,000 roughly of total net position. If you were to break that up into pieces, you would see that you've got about 23 million or 22.6 million invested in net capital assets. And so that's all your infrastructure, all your capital, all the buildings minus depreciation and any related debt to that. So a very informative number there, $22.6 million. Then you have your restricted net position, which is another component of net position, of course, and that is about $2.5 million. You can see that went up from roughly $2 million last year. Most of that restricted net position is your SPLOST collections, your SPLOST revenue collections. And then you have your unrestricted net position, and that's basically everything else that's left over. And you can see that jumped up from $4.2 million to $5.1 million this year. If you look all the way over on the right-hand column there, you can see you had a very healthy year on a full accrual basis. You had $2.7 million of change in net position, so that would be net income. Now that's aggregated all together, so that's business type and governmental together. Most of that is attributable to increases in tax revenues. Building permits are skyrocketing through the roof, as you know. Intergovernmental revenue is up as well due to federal funding. And so that is the full accrual. That is the full accrual presentation of the city of Jasper. Now, a little more meaningful information here. Not that full accrual isn't meaningful. It's good to look at that, but you're probably much more concerned with these numbers here in your general fund. You can see that your revenues have increased $958,000 or 17%. Almost every line here is tax revenue has gone up. Title ad valorem tax has increased 26%. Lost revenue is up 16%. Insurance premium tax is up. Intergovernmental revenue is up 100%. Now that's a little misleading. That's because you didn't have the intergovernmental revenue in the prior year. But it's up $222,000. Building permits are up 65%. So you can see that your economy here is booming. Also, fines and forfeitures are up 37%. We're continuing to see some increases there due to the COVID shutdowns and social restrictions. So all in all, revenue is up across the board. I was talking to someone earlier. I'm interested to see. I think the last 3 or 4 years I've come, you've seen that tax revenue is just up each year. So hopefully we get to see that continue going forward. Your expenditures are up $956,000 or 20%. You can see your financial administration, some details of that increase. You can see your financial administration is down about 18%. You had some software that you purchased for your finance department last year. So that's not in these numbers this year. The police department increased, fire department increased, both of those mostly due to personal services. Your fire department had some capital outlay due to some infrastructure. And then you had quite an increase in street department due to infrastructure. You had some capital outlay that you didn't have any in the prior year. Planning and zoning is up, mostly due to personal services. Now, if you look at the bottom there, you can see unassigned fund balance compared to the prior year. You've got $3.2 million this year compared to $2.6 in the prior year. You can see that I've broken that down into the number of months that would cover expenditures. It's roughly the same as the prior year. So you can see you've got about 6.7 months this year compared to 6.4 in the prior year. And you can see, so that right there tells you, you can see that you're up to 3.2 million, but you had 2.6 and it's basically covering the same amount. You can see that your expenses have gone up. And so that may be some of the inflation that we're seeing. So basically, you have a lot more in fund balance, but it's just not covering as much as it would in just the prior year. So that's quite a substantial change there, you can see. If you look at this chart here, this is the general fund revenues over expenditures over the last 3 years. Very healthy looking chart. You can see that your revenues are up quite a bit, 5.4 million in the prior year to 6.4 this year. And then your expenditures are also going up. But you see that gap in between those, you can see that's your profit that you had in the general fund this year. So very healthy year in the general fund. You had a $678,000 increase in the general fund. General fund balance, you can see I've got total fund balance here and then unassigned fund balance. Who wouldn't be happy with a chart like that? That is going straight up. So we hope to see that continue, but you can see your fund balance just continues to increase along with your change in fund balance. So over the last 2 years, you've had over $650,000 increase in your general fund balance. Now, moving to your water fund, you can see operating revenues are up about 4%. Sales, water sales are up about 4%. Sewer sales are up about 4%. Meter installation sales are up about 4%. Your leachate revenue is decreased, but I think that's still a very healthy number. I mean, that number has been increasing over the years quite substantially. So to see that come down a little bit is probably headed back maybe towards a little normal there. Operating expenses are up about 15%. You can see your cost of goods sold increased about 38%. You had most of that change there is due to the water purchase agreement you purchased with Cherokee County Water and Sewer Authority. You were buying some additional capacity. So I would expect to see those costs decrease in the next year. Also, personal services decreased about 9%. Most of that is due to, now remember, we're comparing the prior year to this year, so a lot of that is due to your pension. And so in the water fund, you're required to book some pension, and that pension changes can change those personal services more than you'd really like to see. And so that your personal services did go up, but a lot of that, or excuse me, did go down, but most of that is due to the accounting for your pension fund. You can see on this chart here, your operating revenues, relatively the same, went from 5.4 to 5.7 million dollars. You can see that bump up in operating expenses due to that purchase of that agreement for the capacity. You can see your operating, you got squeezed a little bit on your operating income. That's the difference between those two lines there. But I would expect that to, after you don't have to account for that large purchase, I'd expect that to go back to normal. And of course, under governmental auditing standards, we're required to look at internal control. We did not see anything that we thought was worthy of a comment in your internal control letter in your report. So I'm happy to report that there were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses or instances of non-compliance. So very, very good plus there. And then you'll have to forgive me, I'm going to have to read a few of these slides here. I'm required to make some of these communications to you. This is really just what I'm required to communicate to you, and that is we're required to plan our audit to obtain reasonable assurance on a test basis and assess the accounting principles that you use. And we believe that our audit accomplished that. We look at your accounting principles and determine whether or not we agree with those. We look at your accounting estimates and determine whether we think those are reasonable. Any corrected audit adjustments, we looked at those. Anything we proposed, we talked with finance and management, and ultimately we agreed on all those. And so any uncorrected audit adjustments, we provided with management, and those were immaterial to the financial statements. I'm happy to report, we didn't have any disagreements with management. We didn't have any difficulties while we were performing our audit. I'd like to applaud your finance department. They do a great job getting us what we need. Like I said, we're here early. We were able to finish our audit early, so they do a great job doing that. And that's over and above their normal job. So we do appreciate all that. Management has signed a representation letter taking responsibility for the financial statements, and we did not consult any management consultants during our audit. You have a letter here in front of you. There's a few minor things that we found during our audit. I don't even think they're worthy of going into detail on those. I've provided that letter to management. They've already talked about how they're going to correct those, and so, like I said, we didn't find anything significant enough that we thought we would put in our letter. If we thought it was significant, we would put in our actual report. And so we've got a few minor little things that management intends to address in the 2023, and that's in that letter, and we provided that to you. And now, we've talked about GASB 87 for the last 5 or 6 years, and we're finally here, we've finally done it, we've implemented. I'm happy to report there weren't very many agreements that we thought were material to the financial statements, but there were some changes to your disclosures. If you were to read through your debt disclosures, you would see that there were some differences this year. So there were some things that we call leases that now are called finance purchases. And so basically those are the capital leases, or what we used to call capital leases. They're now being reported as a finance purchase or a note, more like a note payable. And so those disclosures change in your financial statements. But all in all, really not a big change in your financial statements because of GASB 87. I'd like to keep you aware of things that are coming down the pike. GASB 96, which is very similar to 87, will work with finance to implement this next year. It could be the same situation that we had this year, and that is there may not be any agreements that are material to the financial statements. But this 96 is very much like 87, except it is just for your subscription-based technology arrangements. So if you have material software that you're using on a subscription basis, those kind of things, that would apply here. And so we'll evaluate that next year and see if there's anything that requires recording in the financial statements. And then we've got GASB 101. And so GASB 96, that's next year. GASB 101, we're going to get a little break here. GASB 101 is your compensated absences. That is not required until the year 2025. So we're going to get a little reprieve here. I think it's warranted after GASB 87, and then we're doing 96. So GASB's been busy. They like to keep us governmental accountants busy. They've done a good job of that. But all in all, GASB 81, there won't be, you probably won't notice a lot of changes when that's implemented. Just some changes in some of your disclosure. They've actually reduced some of the disclosure requirements on GASB 101. So, and I'm more than happy to take any questions you might have about the audit, about the report, about any comments or anything like that.
Any questions?
6 months in reserve, that's essentially what we had last year, and that's on the high side for most governments, right?
Yes, I'd say that's a very healthy balance. You know, the recommended is 2 to 3, and so you're already double that. So I think that's a healthy. It's good to have. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And as we were talking, when we were going through that fund balance, costs are increasing, and so that's just that fear of the unknown. So it's good to have some reserve. But yes, that is 6 months worth is a very healthy fund balance reserve.
Full disclosure, Sonia, I did not call Sam about the water and sewer inventory that I've been hounding about for probably longer than you care to mention, but that's okay.
And like I said, those are immaterial to the financial statements, but we feel like that's something that track of. It's very important that we're getting those counts right, that kind of thing, so.
Any further questions? No, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to serve the city of Jasper. Feel free, my email is there, my number's there. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions about accounting, any accounting policies, those type of things. More than happy to take those. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope y'all have a wonderful evening.
Council, I entertain a motion to approve the audit as presented from Rushton Company.
Can I add to that, releasing it to the state, which I think is required by June 30th still?
Yes, and they usually help us make sure we get everything reported.
Yeah, I'd like to add to the motion that we release it to the State Department of Audit. If I remember correctly.
So we have a motion to approve and release to
And
State
release,
Department.
yes, sir.
Okay. And do I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And the motion carries.
Thank you, staff, for that, the board.
Move forward.
Allow this to happen.
Item number 2 is consideration of approval of on-demand architectural service contracts. Request for quote 2023-01. And our assistant manager, Kim Golden, will bring this to us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So in February, staff put out the first of the 2 on-demand service contracts that I'll be presenting to you this evening. This one was RFQ 2023-01, which was for architectural services and specifically to help the city with projects where we feel there may be grant money available or federal funding that we could tap into. And this was designed to help us go ahead and procure folks, that we would have a pool of qualified firms that we could work with, that we could further apply criteria based on the projects to. But really, it just helped us not have to go out to RFP or to RFQ every single time we have a project, which delays the amount of time that it takes to go ahead and get a project out onto the street. I am delighted that we had 6 firms that responded to this RFQ for the architectural services. The first one was American Engineers out of Ackworth. Then we had Access Infrastructure out of Roswell, Bras Roman Braun out of Milton, Goodwin Mills and Kaywood out of Atlanta, Jericho Design Group out of Cumming, and Source Urbanism out of Stone Mountain. The idea is to have, this will be for a very specified amount of time. So this would be 18 months starting May the 1st, going through October the 31st of next year. We used a contract that we got from Bartow County, who has recently gone through this very same process. And David Seifin, our city attorney, helped me to make a few changes. There were some things that didn't necessarily apply to us in the types of projects and requirements that they were asking for. And so I've attached a full copy of one of the contracts in your package this evening, along with the signature pages from all of the contracts. And I'm just requesting that council approve the mayor to be able to execute these conditional contracts on behalf of the city so we can get rocking and rolling. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council, entertain a motion to approve for on-demand services contracts.
So moved.
Jim, second, please.
Second.
Discussion by council.
Do we have any experience with any of these folks?
We do with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood, and I believe that there may be some experience from members on council in other kind of walks of life with a few of these folks. Everyone had great packages, though. I'm really excited to kind of delve in and be able to start really looking at, you know, a project that we have and how can maybe somebody really help us with that.
Thanks, sir. And ma'am.
You're
Any
welcome.
further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And the motion carries.
Excellent.
Thank you, Kim. Item 3, consideration of approval of on-demand engineering services contracts, 2023-02.
Yes, so this is the second of the RFQs that staff put out in February. This was a request for engineering services and probably one that we are really going to be pulling from pretty heavily because there are a lot of projects that we have coming up. There are a lot of opportunities for federal funding and for grant money out there, and so we want to be able to take these folks that have applied or have provided us their qualifications and really start getting into the meat of some projects. We had 10 firms that actually applied. One of the firms did end up having to back out because they were not able to work through some of the contract terms with their insurance company. But who we have is going to be BM&K Construction and Engineering out of Brazelton. And then we have Carter and Sloop Consulting Engineers out of Macon. We have EXP US Services from Atlanta. We have Falcon Design out of Stockbridge. Goodwin Mills and Kaywood out of Atlanta. Kimley Horn out of Atlanta. Newsom Engineering and Consulting in Ellijay. We have a company called Rent out of Marietta. TK Consulting Engineers out of Kennesaw, and they are the ones that actually backed out. And then Turnip Seed out of Atlanta. And so again, David Siphon has gone through and made sure that all the contracts are correct and good to sign, and he has blessed everything. And so I would request council to authorize the mayor to also be able to execute these conditional contracts so we can get going.
Discussion by council?
Motion.
Just asking if there's anyone has any questions for her before we do a motion. Council, entertain a motion to approve the on-demand engineering services contracts for 2023-02.
So moved. Second.
And any further discussion by council? I did note that some of these we've used before.
Yes, sir, we have. And then I have used some of the other ones in a previous lifetime. So
Previous lifetime.
yes, so I think we have some really, really great firms here that can help us, and you know, they've all got their own unique strengths, and we're looking forward to working with them.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And the motion carries. Don't go anywhere, Ken.
I promise I'm going to sit down after this, okay?
Item number 4 is consideration of approval of a quote from Progressive Bike Ramps for the Doris Wigington Park project. And Ken, tell us about that.
I will. So nothing against engineering and architecture, but this one is pretty darn exciting, I gotta say. So staff put out the bidding packages for the mountain bike trails at Doris Wigington Park at the end of March, and we are hitting the end of the road here. Bids are due this Thursday, so I'm hoping that we're going to have a bunch of really great trail builders that will respond, and we can get started on this. The trails are only a small portion of this project, though. The idea for Doris Wigington is to make this a bicycle playground that appeals to folks of all skills levels, all ages, so that people like me, who clearly are not mountain bikers, but might want to try, can get out there and kind of mess around and not feel like I'm out on advanced courses and going to break my neck. There's some areas where I can develop my skills. And a big part of that is what we're wanting to get from Progressive Bike Ramps, and that is the pump track, a snake ladder for the skills development area, some kind of rounded curves, and I've got examples of all of these things in your package this evening. Progressive Bike Ramps, American ramp company, is a member of the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Group that we have joined last year. And by using them, we're able to enjoy a small discount, and the contract is fully vetted, so we can just go right into it. That's one of the benefits of using a purchasing cooperative. So the quote, as you can see, is for $100,661.11. That does include the shipping, and that also includes all the installation on that equipment. The pump track is kind of specialized, and I know we want someone who knows what they're doing to install that for us. The other things we may be able to negotiate once we have a trail builder on board, depending on their comfort and their availability of schedule for that type of thing. But I would recommend that council go ahead and let's approve the contract or the quote for the full $100,661.11 for this project, so that we can get it ordered. There is a 3 to 5 month lead time on this equipment. And as it stands now, if we put in our order, we should be kind of coinciding with the end of the trail construction, this stuff being installed as well, and then being able to open the park to this new idea by the end of the year.
And this does fall within our budget that
It does.
we have previously approved for this project.
Yes, sir. So we have SPLOST funding for this project set aside. We have $250,000. I do not foresee the trails coming anywhere close to the difference if council approves the $100,000 expenditure for all of the equipment and the installation. I think we will still have money left over for this project. And we have a few things that we might like to do to kind of upgrade the parking lots that are out there. They're a little worse for wear. They're kind of worn. We've got some pretty big ruts and things. There's just some other beautification things that could be done out there. So.
Thank you.
This does come from committee as well, Mayor.
I beg your pardon?
This recommendation comes from the
Comes from
committee.
the committee, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Entertain a motion to approve the quote from Progressive Bike Ramps for Doris Wigington Park.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any further discussion by council?
Kim, explain that this ain't X Games though. These are instructional, you know, it's very practical, well-designed for the young folks up to the ones that actually know how to ride a bike.
It is. Councilmember Faust is correct. This is not get out there and fly in the air and do flips and things like that. But it truly is designed to help you build confidence on the equipment to where you can kind of get used to how a mountain bike works, or just how a bicycle works, honestly. You're young, kind of learning those skills, and then if you master that, and then you go over to some of these skills areas, like the snake ramp and thing, where you can also...
You know what a snake ramp is.
So you have a picture in there, but the snake ramp is an elevated wooden ramp that kind of raises up, and then, like a snake, it wiggles towards the end. So you have to have some great balance in order to ride that and not fall off. So I will not be on the snake ramp anytime soon. But it's really cool equipment, and again, it's building confidence, building skills. This area up here, there is nothing like this in our area. Everything is more geared towards the intermediate to advanced rider. There's not a lot of skills development type parks, and so I think we will be able to set ourselves kind of apart from all the other communities because we will have this equipment.
And then we're not the only community going to have this. Smyrna has an excellent example. So if y'all want to see what one looks like, Google Smyrna Bike Park.
Yes, sir.
This is really neat.
It is. It's very, very cool. So we can build those skills, and then folks would be able to either continue riding with us, maybe bring family, children, grandchildren, the possibilities are really endless. And then, eventually beyond to a more intermediate or advanced and continue and enjoy some of those other trails that are in our area.
And that's not to say as we grow that we might not expand it. Depends on how much usage we get. So I think we can get together.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, council. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5, consideration and approval of alcohol license for Tech 10 LLC. And we'll ask our CFO, Mr. Williams, to bring this up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So, Tech 10 LLC made application to sell beer and wine by the package at 45 East Church Street. This is the convenience store located behind the old Mule House. Since this was a new location, we made sure that we were all in compliance with everything. They passed a background check and they've met all the requirements. So just asking if council will please approve this applicant for their alcohol license.
Council entertain a motion to approve the alcohol license for Tech 10 LLC.
So moved.
Jim, and a second.
Second for discussion.
Kurt for discussion.
Ms.
Any
Williams,
discussion?
is this a new business coming into that location?
Yes, they purchased the convenience store or gas station store.
Okay. Is there, and I may be asking questions that you may not know the answer to, forgive me if I am, I can certainly follow up offline. Is there a mechanic shop still in operation at that location? Or is this a separate business?
I think they're all located on one lot, but there's a convenience store and then there was a shop. I don't think they're planning on keeping the shop. They're going to remodel.
All right, and City Manager, my next question would be, does this match or fit our comprehensive planning for our central business district? Have we looked at that yet?
We haven't looked at it yet,
Okay.
so, I mean, we do have the alcohol sales within the central business district. We're not sure if they're gonna continue with, having the repair shop or not. We haven't been provided their business plan. We've just been submitted their alcohol license, a permit approval. So we're not sure what their overall scope of their business plan will be at this point.
Thank you.
Any further discussion by council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
Aye.
The motion carries with one opposition. Jack and Marty, I know we're certainly glad that they're at the bottom of the list so they can talk longest. But item 6 is consideration approval for funding to our Jasper Downtown Development Authority for the events in 2023. And Marty will bring this to us.
Good evening, council and mayor. I was asked on behalf of the Downtown Development Authority, Jasper, to present this to you today. And the request I'm presenting on behalf of the Downtown Development Authority to the City Council is for $28,000 to assist in the funding requirements to host Jasper Downtown Live, formerly known as Second Saturday, which we did last year in 2022, as well as Art Walk. Similar to last year's events and requests for funding, this year is to assist with the expenses associated with hosting our 5 Downtown Live events and 3 Art Walk events in the downtown district of Jasper, Georgia. Our events last year welcomed between 5,000 and 8,000 residents and tourists per event to our city streets for a fun, family-like atmosphere. It's placed Jasper on the map for North Georgia to be very proud of and provided needed tax dollars for our local businesses to grow and prosper. We have raised and have pledges from private donations, sponsorships, and vendors in the amount of approximately $27,000 and continue to solicit others as we grow. We have a new website, Jasper Downtown Live, and have hired a social media company to promote our event. We're expecting our total cost for all 5 events to reach somewhere in the $45,000 range. We're requesting $25,000 for the Jasper Downtown Live events and $3,000 for the 3 Art Walk events. Any questions?
Does this include any of the costs for police and sanitation?
It's part of that, where the in-kind that we're having from the city that will be built in for costs like that. But we have some in-kind things that we're going to ask the city to provide for us. So that doesn't include those figures. That figure is a separate budget for that.
So it's not in the 27,000?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, committee, I believe the city manager was going to get to the public safety committee, and judicial committee, the ideas as far as the closure zone, the times, and the requirements, the needs of both those departments, Mr. Looney, and the committee will be going over those with the chiefs and the city manager. So those figures, Marty and the DA, they wouldn't have a total amount of what to ask for in kind until the city determines at the department level what's needed at those events.
Understand.
The site that we put together, I don't know if you can pull it up or not, but Jasper Downtown Live has a great map that we've used, that we've gotten a lot of help from the city and sources that shows the closure zone that we've kind of developed. Because we've had a lot of businesses that, at 12 o'clock is when we had to close part of the city off where we have stage in there, we start blocking the street. So that's what we've built this area, and this time last year we were scrambling where we was going to put stage, and this year we've come a long way with where we're going to put it and where we're going to put the vendors, and we've isolated those into one area, and the children's area is already set up, and we've got people calling my phone all the time wanting to do things. So we're so much farther ahead than we were last year, but because we knew it was coming, it was a lot bigger than we thought last year.
Let's say, Marty, why don't you remind them how many people showed up after the big hit?
Yeah, that was, based on the numbers we had from the Georgia Power sources, we thought 6,000 or 7,000 people at a time, at some of the events. I mean, we're in the general downtown business area, shopping, eating at restaurants or wherever. So we feel like it was very successful. And believe me, we've got a lot more attention about it this year.
So last year was our first year to do this.
Yes.
And we know a little more. This is our second.
Right.
So you probably are going to need more than what you've actually, but I'm assuming that you're looking at ways to raise money because you spent almost 60 last year.
Right.
Total.
Yeah.
And 58.5 to be exact.
Right. And as we grow, we're going to, we grow in the vendors that we're having, and we're going to grow. We sponsors, we've already gotten more money than this time than we had last year. So, and we haven't really even made a big public push for sponsorship yet. We really actually sort of stayed in the house, before we could really push that more. We got to get the first. We want to feel like we need to get this first event done, and then we can really do it. But we've got some larger opportunities for that too.
So Marty, I'm struggling a little bit with why you're asking for funds to support somebody who's marketing our events downtown. We have tax dollars that are dedicated toward marketing with our DMO, our designated marketing organization, the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
And I know at one point in time they were looking for ways to spend money. And so, can you help?
We've met with them. Amy, our chairman, has procured on some funding for us with our tourism dollars to promote that. So we've got a lot of different things that they're doing. We partner together with them on the radio station and a few other places like that the marketing dollars are going to do. We picked up some posters today that the chamber has done for us. So they're working together with us to do that promotion. So.
Okay.
And
do you have any idea what kind of funds you're going to be getting from them?
Not exactly, because we're still, they were going to meet their next board session to see, but they've got some dollars that would be used for the advertising part of it. So, but part of that is, we've got a new social media person that we've hired to do that. volunteered to it last year, and a lot of hours were spent in that, so we've got someone to do that. So that's starting to really take off now too. The part of the last year was, a lot of it was kind of trial by error, but and we knew how much the costs were, but the biggest expense is like I said last time was the cost of putting up the stage and the production part of it. If we, once we get to where we can maybe look at the park, I'd say 65% of these costs will go away. So I charge and pledge. It's time.
Well, I hope you know I'm an advocate.
Yes, yes.
Not only the
Yes.
downtown events, but also the DDA and the chamber. I mean,
Right.
served in leadership roles.
Sure, but it's been a good thing, and I think there's a lot of people that have been excited about. I have so many people that come up to me and just truly say, "Thank you for what you're doing," and I was like, "It's not me. I want to see people get out and enjoy, and families and get together, and you see how people like to do that, and it's something that people look forward to doing. And there's a lot of enough bad going on in the world. We want something good." That's what we're trying to bring back.
Unfortunately, I also struggle with the term sponsorship because council has had a lot of interaction over the legality of us sponsoring events. And I know that we developed an ordinance, I believe, is that what it was? That Mr. Siphon had developed for us specifically as it relates to economic development,
like this, yes.
not necessarily marketing, which is of course the restricted part of the hotel motel tax fund that the chamber controls is different than we retain some of those funds. So is this in line with what
Yes, sir.
we have all agreed that we could do?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Sutton recommended that we use our non-restricted part of the hotel motel to fund.
And I saw that.
Yes, it falls within those parameters. And if I may, based on the new staggered schedule, we're not sure what the staffing costs are going to be at this time. We will be able to judge that by our first event and be able to provide council with a cost of in-kind support after the first event is held. And also a question to you, Marty. Your original request was for $28,700. I noticed the one before us says $28,000. We need to be specific with City Council when we're asking for a figure.
Right.
They can't approve $28,000 and then you come up and say, oh, we need $28,700. So you had originally included a piece of the website within your ask. Has that just gone away?
The cost that I
It was going to be $25,000 for Downtown Live, $3,000 for the art walk, and $700 to maintain the website a year is the cost that was originally came before the city manager's office. So is that changed now? Because City Council will need to vote specifically on an amount. So they can't vote on $28,000 and then you guys want $28,700. So they need to, it needs to be made clear what they're going to vote on tonight. And just for City Council's information, we budgeted out of the general fund $20,000 this year for these specific events for the downtown lot. So the increase is only going to be $8,700, whichever they choose to ask for tonight. So we already have revenues to sustain the $20,000.
So a few more questions if you don't mind. The art walk, now last year I believe, was that completely funded indirectly with hotel motel tax through the PACA? And
Yes.
I'm on the, I'm not a board member, I'm the less committed board member for PACA. So I had a little bit of knowledge there, but I was a little bit under the impression that had been quite successful for them. Well, of course, Angela's here.
Yeah, I can
Didn't
address any questions.
PACA have a lot of success with that event?
Oh, yes. And so this year PACA has increased the funding. Last year was $1,000 a month. DDA funded $1,200 per event last year.
Okay.
So this
So this is
amount is
really-
actually a decrease from what was funded from DDA last year. And PACA has,
From county, okay.
yes.
I believe so. Okay,
And so this year PACA's funding $2,000 per event.
so this isn't really
But-
a change, I just wasn't aware of. Okay.
Anybody got any other questions from our, as far as the Harbaugh from me?
Any further questions? Council?
For council and mayor's knowledge, I'll take some responsibility as the member that serves on the DDA. Our body is still learning, and we're learning as we go. This is the second year we've done these events. Obviously, once we have the numbers for in-kind, that'll be spread amongst the elected to let you know what that looks like once we have those stats ready. The next goal is for our board, when Marty and Jack's down here next year, it's more of a, you guys approve this in your budget when we have the funding request at budget time, later in the year, and we're here to tell you about the events we're planning, rather than asking for funding. So that's something we're working on. It may have caught you off guard that we're asking for funding at this point in the year. That's something we're going to work on ourselves.
So just,
And-
go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead.
Just as a reminder, at our October retreat, we had a fair amount of conversation about strategically the direction that we may want to go with some of the things that are starting to maybe come together as it related to stages and things like that. So even though it's not necessarily public knowledge, I don't think that we're formalizing that process where we would go through a strategic plan. I think that might be something we want to include in those discussions. So.
And I want to congratulate the both of you as you stand here for an absolutely wonderful year. I'm telling you, I hear so much in our community at large. The community loves what you've done, and I can only give you praise. You put up with all the problems and all the issues, and for 28,700 or whatever you're going to ask for, we did not have to be a part of that. Thank you so much for what you've done.
Well, I from Angela and my part, I'm just gonna tell you, we've got some new things. We aren't gonna say what it was because we want to surprise you. We got some great things, and the opportunities exist, and we look forward to what's fixing to happen.
And I can thank you personally because Folsom volunteered
Yeah.
at the first one, and Jason let him run the board, and now he's got a job doing what he loves doing, mixing music. He's on the bottom level, but he's at least pulling some funds out of setting the stage. Well, I hope so.
Marty, what is your official ask to the
Well, $700, the kind part about the website, we were working that out with the vendor, but I'm not real as familiar with the 700, because the website I didn't develop. Jay had developed that, so I'm not sure if that's $700.
figures?
Yeah, $700 is part of it.
How much?
That 28.7, I guess. Was
28.7, okay. Thank you.
They can ask for forgiveness later. But that's how much.
Council, this time I entertain a motion to approve a request for $28,700 to fund our downtown development authority for the events that we will have this year, including some to our park.
So moved.
Second.
Kurt and John. Motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, city manager.
Thank you, everybody.
Committee reports, public safety did not meet. Parks and properties, that the Dr. Proctor and John Fast.
Well, we've already touched on Doris Wigington a little bit. Obviously, we're hoping to get that operational by the end of the year. We're waiting the bridge at the city park. We're waiting on bids to prepare that, doing some light repairs. Obviously, I think the big thing is Road Park continues to move along, albeit slowly, because of the funding process. And I think that's a good summary of what, just a sample of what we have going on.
Good. John, anything to add?
Just, ask the citizens to help us keep an eyeball on the parks, because we got some irresponsible people that think that breaking it in and destroying stuff that, that we have to replace, fix, or, respond to. It's part of having parks, but it's not the fun part of having parks. So parks are meant to be enjoyed, somewhere to go to relax, and somewhere to enjoy the beauty. We're lucky to have what we have, and we need to take care of what we got. So please help us. If you see somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing in the park, please call the city or call 911, because there's no sense in them destroying our stuff.
Well said, thank you. Enterprise funds, Councilmember Jim Looney and Dr. Proctor.
Had an update from Turnip Seed concerning the wastewater plant expansion. It is moving on. We are trying to work around some issues on easements that will be resolved. Other thing is AMI is continuing to put in the new water meters. I think we had a total of 5,818 that have been installed, and that is moving and should be finished fairly quickly, if not already. So we're looking for guidance on that one. That's all I have. We still discussing commercial trash pickup downtown area. Trying to make some decisions on that.
And also finalizing the rate study.
Right.
Which is important. I think it's important for the public to know that the rate study is tied to our project. It's not, again, we're still working on that, but there are obligations that we will have to meet in order to make that project viable for the funding. And I think that's it. Me too.
Thank you. Development, local infrastructure, Kurt Redfield and John Faust.
Committee did meet, Mayor and Council. We had 11 or 12 different items on our agenda that evening. We did discuss neighborhood requests and how the city operates and works with certain neighborhoods when they have a certain request of the city, how we navigate those waters no matter what their request may be. Staffing in the department and advertisement of positions, filling of positions, what that looks like. Sidewalks, streets, and then of course the usual meeting with developers and holding them accountable for soil erosion.
And we also discussed new street signs, something we had started a few years ago that we need to finish. We want to be able to put the addresses of the corners so that when you go, you know which way you're going. You've seen other ones in other parts of the country. You'll see 200 with an arrow. That means if you take a right, you're going 200 plus. If you go back 150. So to make it a little easier for our EMS and our police to be able to respond to emergency calls. And also these signs are going to be a little larger than what we've done in the past. So it'll be easier to see and be able to navigate the city better.
Thank you, sir. Finance and Administration will meet tomorrow night. Council, at this time I'd entertain a motion to enter into executive session to discuss real estate and legal.
So moved.
Second. Motion second, all in favor?